Let's have a music revolution. Revolution, revolution. Let's have a music revolution. Revolution, revolution. Everybody clap your hands. Music revolution. Everybody clap your hands. Everybody clap your hands. Everybody clap your hands.
Wait a minute. Wait. It is now start time. Start time. You mean the eternal Fang? Get it on. Hey.
Hi everybody, it's Plastic EP and Andrew Soos coming in from Melbourne, Australia, here on our third episode of Music Revolution, the fantastic new music show that's worldwide. And I'm going to tell you, we've got a very special guest. Of course, it's Fang. It's Phil Volk. Fang from the Raiders. How are you, Phil?
Yeah, you got that right. I gave you a big cue card there.
That's great. You look at $1 million.
I didn't want you to forget who it was.
Well, I can't forget with that. And let me tell you, that's your famous trademark that you did on stage, jumping on the Vox amps.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? Every time you showed that, you stole the show from the Raiders. I'll tell you that. Well, it's a big part of the show.
It worked. It became my brand.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did it. Paul wanted me to have a nickname like Bugs or Bucky or something. And I said, no, those aren't cool enough. So I put this Fang. I went to the electric truck on the set of Where the Action Is. I said, can you give me some of that black tape? and I put it on some of this is from the 60s. That's still the same tape that I put on this bass. And this is the bass I use for Kicks and for Hungry and for Good Thing and Stepping Out and I'm Not Your Stepping Stone and you name it. This was my baby right here.
Phil, you got to tell me your favorite Raiders song. Give us two of your favorite and why they're your favorite.
Gosh, you would have to ask that question.
Yeah, I have to.
I helped build the song, so I love them for different reasons. I like Hungry because it has a really good upfront bass line to the whole song. And when I went to that movie that Quentin Tarantino put out, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he used Hungry in the soundtrack. And I have a bass solo in Hungry, and there was no dialogue. All of a sudden, I'm just hearing my bass solo in the theater, and it's just booming away. Boom, 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 boom. And I'm thinking, wow, this is cool. I did that 55 years ago, and here I am in the theater listening to it. I like that song, and I like the song Louise. I don't know if you've ever heard it, Louise. Yep. It wasn't a hit. But I just loved the bass line. Louise, do 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 do. You don't know Louise, do 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 do.
Yeah, I love it too.
Once again, Paul Revere and the Raiders. Well, I had to leave town because of Uncle Sam's deal. Yeah. Well, I guess my good lovin' done lost its appeal.
But there's other songs like Good Thing, which I think is a killer song. And we wrote that song at the house where Sharon Tate was murdered. Now, how did that work out? Well, Mark and Terry, our producer, lived in the house. Our manager, Roger, got the house for him. He lived there for a while. Then he moved out. He lived there. But you know what happened is Dennis Wilson from the Beach Boys somehow got connected to Charlie Manson, and Charlie and Dennis would come over to the house and talk to Terry Melcher, our producer. You know, Terry is Doris Day's son, right? Doris Day's son. So anyway, Terry got kind of creeped out with this guy because Charlie kept saying, "Can you produce our the Manson girls from the Manson Ranch? They all sing, and it would be a great record." And Terry didn't want to do it. Okay, and he got creeped out with this guy, and he moved out of the house, the one on Cielo Drive, and he subleased it to Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski, the same house where we wrote Good Thing. We wrote Good Thing in that house, you know, on the piano and sitting there in the living room. And it was me and Mark and Terry and Harpo were there, you know, doing chords and lyrics. And then the next day we went to the studio and recorded it. And it was just such a departure for us. It had a different kind of groove. It almost had kind of a Motown groove, you know. Sugar pie, honey bunch. You know, it had that kind of a groove. And then we had the Beach Boy harmonies. So we had a mishmash of different influences, but it came out so good. And it was in the Quentin Tarantino movie. And I'm proud of that song.
Seems this world got you down. You're feeling bad vibrations round. Well, open your eyes, girl. Look at me. I'm gonna show you how it ought to be. We're gonna have a good thing, such a good thing, baby. And when your world don't seem just right, and the life's getting you uptight, you can change that wrong to right. Cause I was there myself last night, girl. I really had a good thing, such a good thing, baby. I won't have no one there, no one around to bring you down.
I could go on and tell you why I like about this song, what I like about that song. I have a song that I wrote on one of the albums called Why? Why is it so hard to break love apart? You know, and it's a true story about me saying goodbye to a girl so I could be with my wife, Tina, you know, Tina Mason, who I was married to for 54 years. You know, she passed in 2021 from Alzheimer's, but she was the girl singer on Where the Action Is. And so I love that song. It has special meaning to me. I love In My Community. It's another one that I wrote, but it just had such a great groove. And here's what's funny. It came out so good. Terry Melcher wanted to use it as an A-side. Why do I say that? Well, because first, it's true. And secondly, we had just finished recording The Great Airplane Strike, a song that Mark had written, you know. Terry wasn't really thrilled with Great Airplane Strike. But when we finished In My Community, he said, that's a single. That has a great hook. That has a great pocket. I want to put that on the A side. But Mark and Paul said, Ixnay, no nay, can't do it. Sorry, pal. Go back to your cage. And, you know, back in those days, the single record, the little 45, was the whole deal. You know, the albums weren't used on radios. They just played 45s, okay? The albums came a little bit later in the 60s. So anyway, Terry said, well, I want to put it on the B side. In case Great Airplane Strike doesn't make it, we're going to flip it over and In My Communities. And Paul says, well, Phil's not the lead singer of the band. Yeah, but he sounds great. He's a great lead singer. There's other rock groups that have more than one lead singer, you know, but Mark didn't want to budge on that issue. And Paul backed up Mark, and Terry was kind of pissed off.
I've been watching a lot of your videos and a good fan. Actually, you're striking because you've got a real muscularity with the bass on stage, but you move like a dancer.
I like that word, muscularity. I like that word.
Yeah, you move like a dancer. And some of the choreography that you did with the Raiders was pretty much epic. And even your little Chuck Berry shuffle that you do, it's kind of mesmerizing.
Oh, thanks. Well, I was raised up as a dancer. My mom taught me how to sing when I was 2 years old, and I cut a little record. In fact, it was a plastic EP. We went into a little recording booth trailer at a carnival, and while my other brothers and sisters were doing the rides, my mom took me into this little studio, and I sang 2 songs a cappella, and I have it on a plastic little record, and they were like standard songs from the 40s. If you call everybody darling, and everybody calls you darling too. That was one of them. And the other one was Slow Boat to China. I want to get you on a slow boat to China, all to myself alone. And I sang it perfectly in key, and all the words, all the lyrics. Eventually, I kept this record when I formed Brotherhood with Drake and Smitty of the Raiders, and we put out kind of a far out psychedelic album called Friend Sound. I used a little clip of that little plastic record on the Joyride album. We had 2 Brotherhood albums, and the third album was called Joyride Friend Sound. We had a lot of our friends come to the studio. That's what we call a Friend Sound, and we jammed and we did it, and then we did some pretty far out. I don't know if you've ever seen that record. Have you seen it?
Yep, I've seen it.
Joyride Friend Sound. This is our first Brotherhood album, right? That's Smitty, Drake, and I'm over here. Okay. And then Ron Collins was the keyboard. That was our first attempt as a group called Brotherhood, because we had lawsuits after we left the Raiders and Columbia Records. We got sued, and we were on ice for almost a year and a half. We couldn't release anything. After the suit was over, we could cut a deal with RCA Victor, which was a good deal. That was the first Brotherhood album. And then we got a little more. We were trying to do a lot of stuff on that first album. There's orchestrations and stuff like the Beatles did with their Sgt. Pepper band, big production songs. And we decided we better get a sound that people could say, that's Brotherhood. And so we really went back to our roots with this one called none other than Brotherhood. Okay. And that's me in the middle, right there. And that's Drake and Joe. That's what is it? Joe something. Sorry, Joe. I'll get it here. I'll get it here in a minute. I was going to say Joe South, but I know that is wrong. Joe Pollard, drummer. He's the one that invented the electric drums. You know those? He was in Joe Pollard. Great drummer. And Smitty had left after the first album that I showed you. Smitty was in on this one. And then he left, moved to Monterey, California. We're going to talk about Monterey in a little bit, right?
Yeah, of course we are.
Okay, now here's that psychedelic album I was telling you about. And this is where I used a little clip of that plastic record I cut when I was 3 years old. My mom took me into this recording trailer, and I recorded 2 songs, and it's called Friend Sound. Does that look okay?
Oh, yeah.
Joyride Friend Sound. And it's actually on the back it says a musical free-for-all. So we had a lot of our friends come in. We did a lot of the songs are just jam sessions, and then we put special effects, and we added this and we added that. But that little record is in Child Song. We went to schools, elementary schools. We went down to one in Watts, LA, and Los Angeles, downtown Watts. It's basically an African-American community. And we listened to the little black children play in the playground. And then we went to a white neighborhood and recorded those little elementary kids play, and they sounded the same. It's just kids, innocence. That's all the same. Happiness, joy, innocence. Kids are kids. And so we mushed these two recordings. We went out with a tape recorder, a reel-to-reel tape recorder, and recorded them live, playing on the playground. And there we are recording the kids, and that's what we. And then we added. We added a Celeste. I played a Celeste, and we Don Nelson, Ricky Nelson's uncle. He played flute, and someone just joined me.
That's good.
Can you see this guy?
Yeah, of course.
Hey,
What's his name? Or her name?
This is Ozzy. This is Ozzy. I'm a dog lover. Okay, so anyway, to make a long story even longer, that one particular cut is called Child Song, and toward the end, we overlaid my little vocal that I sang as I was 3 years old. We overlaid it and deep echo in the background as you hear these children playing, and as you hear a Celeste and you hear wind chimes, and it's just really quite a captive audio kind of a environment. Okay, and my mom came over to the house when I was playing that particular cut, and she said, "Are there children here playing somewhere?" I said, "No, that's a record I just recorded." She said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." And just about that time, she hears, "I want to get you on a slow boat." She hears my voice riding over the top of the recording. She just breaks down. She just starts crying. She says, "Oh, that's you. That's you, Philip." She couldn't put all the pieces together. It was almost like she was having some kind of a vision, and she was kind of like left her body for a minute. I'm happy we included that song on this cut just from that one reaction from my mom, because it meant so much to her, But this is a very cool album. It took a while to get acceptance from the music aficionados, but eventually it became a collectible friend sound. And some of these albums, because they're so limited, they didn't print that many. There's not many in circulation. Some of them have gone for $500 and $600. Okay.
I hope you got a stack of them somewhere in a cupboard. When you want a spare dollar, just pull them out.
I think I got 2 left. But you would I think you would enjoy it. I mean, just the titles: Joyride, Childhood's End, Love Sketch, Child Song, where we use my little vocal, and then side 2, Lost Angel Proper Street. Say that a few times. Lost Angel Proper Street. Lost Angel is obviously Los Angeles, right? And it really conjures up the sounds. There's cars honking. There's sound effects. There's all kinds of sounds that make you feel like you're in downtown LA. And then probably my favorite cut is the last one on the bottom here, called Empire of Light. Now I'm going to test your skills in the art world. Does Empire of Light ring a bell?
My wife is an art teacher, so you've really got me on the ropes here.
Oh, well, ask her. Does she know an artist named Rene Magritte? He was very popular in the 60s with the hippies. Rene Magritte, because he did paintings. He did a painting of a man with, a bowler hat like they were in England, with a nice suit.
Oh, yes.
But they put an apple right in front of his face, just a red apple, stuff like that. Empire of Light was one of his great paintings because it showed a city block with nice, English condos and homes on a city block with the street lights on and everything. And in the background, it's all lit up like daytime. That's the Empire of Light, overlooking this nighttime scene. Fantastic. I loved. If you ever get a chance to see Rene Magritte art, get a book, look through his book of because he's kind of like Salvador Dali in a way. It's very surrealistic and impressionistic, and that's why that's why I named it Empire of Light. But the whole kick here was that I had left the University of Colorado music school. I was studying music, right? And we had some artists come through the school, famous people, famous orchestrators and composers, and they would put on little concerts at the college, at the School of Music. And one time, they had this guy. I wish I had his name. I might think of it. At one time, he came and he did a song called Zyklus, which means circle. And the chart was a circle. You start anywhere on the circle and you play it until you reach the point where you started the chart. You know what I'm saying? A circle chart of music. But part of the instrumentation was a guy at the baby grand piano, not playing the keys, but reaching in and plucking the strings. Bing, boom, boom, bing. Almost sounds like a harp, right? And you can do harp type of trills and stuff like that. But that was called prepared piano. So I played prepared piano on this cut called Empire of Light, and it is probably one of the most out of this world, heavenly kinds of compositions. And anyone who's into creative music and something that's kind of a little far out, something that's way out there, but still has some music continuity about it and purpose, and you know that you're listening to something that has some meaning and depth. Well, that's Empire of Light, and I was plucking the piano, and Ron Collins was on the B3 Hammond organ. I would do a lift, bing, boom, boom, bing, bing, and he would go. He would do the Hammond organ, and then Smitty and Drake were inside the sound control room doing sound effects and echo and repeats and doubling and stuff, and we did it spontaneously. It was all one take, done spontaneously, and that's what came out, the Empire of Light. And I am so stinking proud of that piece. It sounds like it was designed. It sounds like it was written, but it was all improv. So that's my story about that.
I find it fascinating to hear about your adventures in psychedelia because normally listening to it, it's just a chance for people to be a little bit playing to a genre, a little bit lazy and not experimental. But it sounds to me that for you, psychedelia was not just part of the period, it was a chance to play with metaphor, allegory, to push the sounds which you were making. And also, could I suggest that I think the bass is perfect for psychedelia because music to me is all about controlling of time and tempo and imagery. And I think the bass notes of your guitar are just perfect for that.
Well, I agree with you that the bass is kind of the foundation, and it also is the locomotive. To me, the bass is like a locomotive pulling all these cars behind it. The bass is got in rock and roll. The bass guitar is such an important asset of rock and roll. And I'm so glad I switched from regular guitar and went to bass because Paul Revere needed a bass player, and I had played a little bit of bass with Drake in a little group called Sir Winston's Trio, and we would switch off on guitar and bass. It was keyboard player, a guitar, and bass, and then one of us, Drake and I, would switch off on guitar and bass and play our songs, our repertoire. Now, Sir Winston's Trio was playing in a lounge, a grown-up lounge, 21 and older, and we were only 16, right? 16 and 17, and we went on a daytime dance show, a local show in Boise, Idaho. I think the Dick McGarvin show. He was a DJ, famous DJ. And we performed as Sir Winston's Trio. And, the kids loved it. And it was live. It was all live. The next day, Drake and I are walking down the street in Boise. And we come across a storefront or something that had a picture of the Raiders on it. Paul Revere and the Raiders performing tonight. And Drake, we said, what? They're playing here? And we looked up at the sign. It was called the Crazy Horse. Paul Revere had built a nightclub for teenagers only. It was no alcohol. It was a teenage nightclub. And Paul Revere played there, and other acts would come and play there. And so that night we went and saw him. And, you know, he was very sad because the kids didn't show up. They only had maybe half a crowd. And so we stayed there all night and listened to the Raiders, they were fantastic. And we sat with Paul till about 3 or 4 in the morning, and he was bemoaning the fact that the kids just didn't show up, and this is a club for them. I realize it's new, but they should have come knowing that our band's playing, because the Raiders are the most popular band in the Northwest, including Boise, Idaho, because he was from Idaho, okay? So he knew me from my older brothers and sisters who would attend his dances in the Idaho, southern Idaho area. He knew me, but I never really had a chance to see him play live, right? And so as we're talking, he said, you know what? I saw you guys on that TV show yesterday, the Dick McGarvin dance show. You know, it's like American Bandstand. And he said, you know what? You guys were good and you were playing live. And I'll tell you something. If you guys had a drummer, I'd let you play this club in a minute. You could play here. We thought, really? We could play here at this club? And he says, yeah, just get a drummer. And so we said, hey, can we borrow Smitty for this weekend? Smitty's the drummer of the Raiders. Smitty was already in the Raiders. Me and Drake were not in the Raiders yet. But Smitty agreed to do it. And that weekend, we played Paul Revere's nightclub, the Crazy Horse, but we were no longer a trio. We couldn't call ourselves Sir Winston's Trio, and we didn't want to go with Sir Winston's Quartet. So we designed a complete new image in the space of about 4 days. We were going to call ourselves the Surfers. We didn't play any surf music, but we dressed, you know, like surf bums with cut off shorts and tennis shoes and Hawaiian shirts. And for some reason it caught on, and we played R&B and rock and boogie, and the kids loved it. We didn't play any Beach Boys or nothing, but we just called ourselves the Surfers. And Paul Revere says, you know, that's a pretty clever gimmick you got there with the cut off Levi shorts and the Hawaiian shirts and tennis shoes. You guys look probably the precursor to grunge rock, right? We look kind of grungy. But Paul loved it, and Smitty enjoyed playing with us, and we had terrific chemistry. Now, if you're following the story, guys, there you have it. Smitty, a Raider. Drake, becoming a Raider in a few months. Phil will become a Raider in about a year and a half, okay? So we were all on stage together, who would eventually become all Raiders together, you know? And yet we're all playing with this band who had just got put together for Paul Revere's nightclub, the Surfers. And we kicked butt. And Paul Revere is so impressed with our playing skills that he wanted to promote a dance. That's what Paul did a lot. He would get one of these big IOOF halls or big auditoriums or some kind of auditorium. You know what an IOOF hall is? Or a National Guard armory. It's just a big open, like a gymnasium, you know. And so he would rent one of those. He would four-wall it. He would rent the hall. He would charge a ticket, $1 or $2 per head. And he said, I'm going to advertise it with Paul Revere and the Raiders, featuring the new band in Boise, the Surfers. And we did. Oh my God, if I only had a video of that historic night, it would mean so much to me. And you know, we didn't have the cell phones, so no one was filming. All the girls had was those little Kodak Instamatic cameras, right?
Yeah.
And maybe someone took a few pictures, but we got on stage and we kicked butt. And Paul really loved it. And the crowd, by the way, was sold out. The place was packed. And another feather in our cap is that there was a ballroom in Boise called the Miramar Ballroom. Now, this is where record acts would come and do a concert. I saw Fats Domino there, Roy Orbison, the Champs, Tequila, and there was mainly for name acts, but occasionally they would get a local band in there for a dance. So they advertised the Surfers everywhere on the marquee, the Surfers, and we packed the joint out. Now remember, this was a brand new band, summer of '63. And at the end of that summer, I was going to go to college, and Drake was going to be hired by Paul Revere to go with him, So this was a very short window of fame. But we ended up doing the Miramar Ballroom and playing some great rock and roll. Surfers, right? Surfers with the cut off jeans, the grunge look, grungy surfers. And I tell you, what a special summer that was, summer of '63. Man, it was terrific.
And that's pre-Beatles. That's what, the real surf scene, isn't it?
That's pre-Beatles. The Beatles didn't come out until the end of '63 and the beginning of '64, my first year in college. But the thing that's so important to me is that Paul Revere was an integral part of our success, Drake's success, my success. And here's the deal. That summer when we were playing his club, the Crazy Horse, the Surfers were there doing a gig. Drake stayed there later because Paul wanted to audition him for the Raiders. He was going to get rid of his guitar player, and he loved Drake's playing. So he stayed there late at night, and Paul had him do this lick and that lick and play this and play that. And he really loved him. Well, he didn't tell Drake anything till the next day. The next day, he comes knocking on the door, knock, 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 of his house. He knew where Drake lived. And his mom opens the door, and she says, "Oh, Paul Revere, wow." He says, "Yeah, you must be his mom." "Yes, I need to talk to Drake." He says, "Well, he's in bed. He was up all night playing guitar." So he says, "Well, I got to talk to him. We're going on the road. I need to bring him with me." And so they bring him into Drake's bedroom, and there he is. Drake is laying on the bed with a guitar laying over his chest, fast asleep. And so Paul comes in and shakes him at the shoulder, says, hey, kid, wake up. Hey, kid." So guess what Drake's nickname was in the Raiders? The Kid. Drake ended up having that as a nickname. I was Fang. Mike Smith was Smitty. Paul was Uncle Paul. And Mark was Madman Marcus. So, hey, kid, wake up. I got to take you on the road. We got to leave today. Drake was like, what? Yeah, I love your playing. You're going to be a Raider now. Really? Yeah, we got to leave. We got to leave in about 2 hours. So you got to get your clothes together and your guitar and everything. We're out of here. We're going to go to Seattle and Portland and Spokane and play all those cities. So Drake left. I was getting ready to go to college, but Drake had 2 weeks on the road with the Raiders, and he came back just before I left on the midnight train to Denver, Colorado, to go to school in Boulder, Colorado, University of Colorado. And so he comes back and tells me all about his experiences, everything, the girls, the fun, the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. You know what I'm talking about? All that stuff. And he said, man, this is the best life ever. He said, the band's great. I love everybody in the band. We love each other. The crowds already, all the dance halls are packed out when Paul Revere comes to town. And so I thought, oh, wow, but I'm going to the Colorado to study classical music and sing opera. Oh, sole mio. So, and really, I was studying opera. And when I went to my vocal professor in my classes during the week, sometimes I'd come in hoarse. And he would say, Phil, what's wrong with your voice? He said, well, I had a gig at one of the sororities over the weekend. I'm in a rock band and I sing rock and roll. He says, well, you're ruining your voice. If you're going to sing that music, I got to teach you how to breathe correctly so you don't hurt your vocal cords. Guess what? He helped me. I became a better rock singer because of studying opera. Can you believe that? It's a double whammy, baby.
For everybody out there, and especially your first generation fans coming up with music now, there's so many people going to YouTube and watching all your clips. I just want to say, Paul Revere and the Raiders were the only pop band, rock band to be on the Batman show, and that makes it iconic. Straight away, you're in history there. And I mean, I just want to say, here in Melbourne in 1967, right in July, the month that I turned 9 years old, the Monkees came on the first week, and guess what? The week after, the first episode of Batman was shown in black and white, because we only had black and white, right, in 67.
Champagne for everybody! Hooray for Penguin!
Hooray for Penguin!
Hooray for me!
Vote for Penguin, yes sirree! He's the bird for you and me. Clean up Gotham, 1, 2, 3. So cast your vote for Pengy.
Friends and fellow Gothamites, the Penguin platform is simple. Extremism in defense of vice, moderation in pursuit of virtue.
Now, not only that, I've gone through videos on YouTube, and I just want to say, Fang, where the action is, had so many great artists like the Turtles and whatever. It was one of the biggest national shows ever. But I also want to say, when you were playing Raider songs and Mark was singing and the band was playing and you lifted up your bass with the word Fang, that was the showstopper that stole the show, and eventually they had to let you sing because you became the fan favorite. Is that not true? And obviously when you play live, they're waiting for you.
I'm not going to brag about it, but it's true. The fans wrote letters to the Dick Clark office. They say, we want to hear Fang sing. We want Fang. And, it became a brand, and it was such a strong brand that a lot of the fan mail was based around giving Fang more screen time. But, we were all famous in our own right in the band. Smitty had his fans. Drake had his fans. I had mine. Mark had his fans. And as a group, we were a real strong fan-oriented kind of a band. And when we did concerts, we had the boys and the girls yelling and screaming for us, the fact that I started that Fang thing, it was just a blessing. I didn't realize what an impact it would have. And so where did I get that idea? In college, there was a folk group that would play around the campus, play at the sororities and fraternities, and it was a stand-up bass, I eventually joined them and sang with them. Can't remember what their name was. But they would stop in between songs and tell jokes. And this one guy, the lead singer, was starting to tell a joke. And as he's telling the joke, he can't remember the punchline. He can't remember the name or the word, which is the punchline. And he goes to the bass fiddle player and he says, hey, Fred, do you remember that guy's name? And the bass player flips his bass around and it says, Elvis or something like that. And I thought, wow, he got a big laugh out of that. maybe I could do something like that. That's kind of where I got the idea from that folk group that had put something on the back of the bass fiddle, and I thought that's kind of a good shtick, you know.
But that was vision. See, I'm just saying, Mark didn't expect it because you did it when Mark was singing and didn't expect it. That's what made it even more spontaneous because the crowd goes wild. And then you just lift, like you're lifting the band up too. As you said, it's a team effort. And I'm sure that made the band a lot stronger.
Well, it helped our mass appeal because we all had personalities. It's like the Monkees. Davey had his personality, Mickey had his personality, Peter Tork was kind of weird, and Mike Nesmith was more of an intellectual. So they all had their personalities, and bless their heart. We knew all of them. We used to hang out together. One of my best friends back in the day was Davy Jones. I loved him. We lived very close to each other in Laurel Canyon, Studio City. Oh, there goes Brian.
That's where Mickey lived too, in Laurel Canyon.
Mickey Dolenz?
Yeah.
Yeah, we all lived in Laurel Canyon. Everybody. In fact, there's a new documentary out called Echo in the Canyon.
Yep.
And it features Jacob Dylan getting together with all these different people, Stephen Stills, David Crosby, Joan Collins, Joni Mitchell, all these Jackson Brown. They all lived in the canyon, and Jacob Dylan did a concert of all these different songs from these different artists. But the street I lived on was called Wonderland Avenue. How's that for a name? So, hey, check this out. You won't believe this. So I'm having my coffee in the morning. I go out to the back patio to sit in the morning, and maybe it was 11 o'clock, 12. And I'm hearing all this music. Then I hear someone say, all right, let's do it again. Come on, let's do it one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. What song is that, Andrew?
Doors. Light
My Fire by the Doors. They were just learning the tune, and you could hear Jim Morrison say, no, take it again. And then the organ player finally got his chops on that intro, and they were rehearsing it, and they recorded it that week, and it became a massive hit, But that's Laurel Canyon for you, And, I remember hooking up with Denny Doherty and John Phillips of the Mamas and Papas. And, Frank Zappa lived in Laurel Canyon. And I meant to tell you that the album I spoke to you about, this one right here, the psychedelic one, Joyride, we recorded that in Valentine Recording Studios. The guy who was recording just before we came in, Frank Zappa, he did all that wild, interesting music, and the engineer even played me a few clips of the session, and some of it was orchestrated, but some of it was really off the wall. He says, you guys should get together. It looks like you're kind of on the same path, which I think now looking back, that's a compliment.
Great that you've mentioned the Monkees because media was so important to them. Am I right, Phil, that the Raiders were probably the most recorded live performers of the 60s on television?
I'm glad you brought that up because historically speaking, the true statistics are Paul Revere and the Raiders had more television performances in the decade of the 60s than any other rock band in history. And guess how many? Over 750 television performances. No one can touch that. Where the action was 520 episodes. There's just 520. And then Paul Revere had the Happening, and then Happening 68 at the end of the 60s. And that TV show was featured in Quentin Tarantino's movie. You see clips of Paul and Mark on Happening. So they had a few hundred performances there. So when you put them all together, including the Ed Sullivan and Shindig and Hullabaloo and 9th Street West and all those other TV shows and even the local ones, Paul Revere and the Raiders hold the world record for more television performances than any rock band in history. What can I say? And we're still not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. What's up with that?
Come on.
Forget about your Hemis and your GTOs. I've got a new machine, and she really goes. When I pass you on the drag strip, you'll know darn well. Been beaten by a porcupine, V8 Chevelle. Tagging it up now, you better be quick. Nothing can outrun my SS396. There's lots of chrome goodies sitting under the hood. She looks real pretty like a tough one should. On her red line tires, she sits real mean. She's the coolest hot one you've ever seen. Cruising the highway, I get my kicks. Everybody's digging my SS396. Look at her go. Look at her go. She sits real low. Feel her tires grip the road. Her deep breathing pole. Man, they'll never sell short. Feel the rear end grab the load. I'll take you for a ride, man, it's really a treat. Strap yourself into a bucket seat. When the 4-speed tranny is starting to whine, we'll know that the Super Sport wants to get off the line. Cruising the highway, I get my kicks. Nothing can match my SS396. Look at her go. Look at her go. She sits real low. Feel her tires grip the road. Her deep breathing pole. Man, they'll never sell short. Feel the rear end grab the load. I'll take you for a ride, man, it's really a treat. Strap yourself into a bucket seat. When the 4-speed tranny is starting to whine, we'll know that the Super Sport wants to get off the line. Cruising the highway, I get my kicks. Nothing can match my SS396. SS396. SS396.
SS396. That was just a little clip of that song. And you know, the car companies were deeply grateful, and they were able to pass out that record at the car dealerships, I guess as a 45, with Corvair Baby and SS396. You've heard of the Batmobile. Well, this was the Raider Mobile.
Is that the one with the two Vox guitars on either side?
Yeah, that's the one. And it was just being kind of put together and built toward the end of my time with the Raiders. And it came in later, and it was a good gimmick. And Paul Revere used it on the TV show Happening. And they got some mileage out of it, you know. But it all goes back to the music, dude. If it's not in the grooves, forget about it.
Now, getting back to the music, I've got to say, and this is my opinion, to have released Stepping Stone, right, and put on an album, and it wasn't released as a single, and then I'm saying, here comes the Monkeys, and they give them your demo for sure of that song. Yeah. To me, it's very close. It's very identical, right? And you guys were first with that song. I mean, to me, I just say that is fantastic. I mean, Mickey Dolenz did a great job. But I'm just saying, overall, it's like so close.
Well, here it's so close because Tommy Boyce took our demo of our recording and said, guys, they're not going to put it out as a single. They're just going to put it on an album. So songwriters wanted to get the single. They wanted it to go on the 45. And we decided we were going to put out Hungry instead, which was a great hit for us. Hungry. It was written by the same people that wrote Kicks, right? So Tommy Boyce went to the Monkees and said, guys, the Raiders just did this. They're not going to put it out as a single, so I'm not going to give them an exclusive like I promised them, because I only promised an exclusive if they put it out as a single. So since they're not going to use it, here it is, guys. We recorded it in August of 1966. Theirs came out at the end of that year in December of 66, almost 4 or 5 months later. So even though they had the hit, We were the ones that did the song first in August of '66. So when Mark and Mickey are on tour together as the Teen Idol tour, Mark's doing his show and he goes into "I'm Not Your Step," I'm not your stepping stone, and he's singing it. All of a sudden, Mickey Dolenz comes out and said, "Whoa, time out! Come on, guys, stop the music." And Mark looked at us and said, "Mickey, what are you doing?" He says, "Well, that's my hit. You're singing my hit." Well, we recorded the song too 5 months before you did, and we put it on our album. We had a connection with that song, and yeah, you did get the hit, but we had it first. So Mickey says, "Okay, here's what we'll do. You sing one verse, I'll sing another verse, and we'll come together on the chorus." And it became the strongest part of the show. You know, it was a very fun, and because the two of them are singing Stepping Stone together.
Tricks that you used on me. You reading all them high fashion magazines, the clothes you wearing lately causing popular scenes. I said, I'm not your stepping stone. No, I'm not your stepping stone. Oh, not your stepping stone. No stepping stone. Page news. You've been awful careful about the friends you choose, but you won't find my name in your book of who's who. Said, I'm not your stepping stone. Not me, no. I said, I'm not your stepping stone. No, not your stepping stone.
But I got to tell you, have you heard of the Sex Pistols?
Yep.
Yeah, from England, right?
That's right. UK.
Is that grunge or what is it?
No, that's punk.
Punk. Okay. So anyway, there was a magazine that comes out of England called Mojo, and they did a special on the Sex Pistols. And they even glued a CD to the front of the magazine, the best recordings that influenced the Sex Pistols. And guess what was on it?
Your version of Stepping Stone.
Our version. I'm Not Your Stepping Stone. And so our version was on that CD, and it says, these are the songs that influenced the Sex Pistols the most. So I thought, okay, that's kind of a feather in our cap. You know, not that I was into punk, but the fact that we got so much mileage out of it. And then when Mark and Mickey went on tour, they had a great little bit to do together, you know, and so it worked. It would have been nice to have the hit, but we got the hit with Hungry, you know.
I just got to say, every band that starts off from the garage plays I'm Not Your Stepping Stone. It's the normal standard. Every single band.
Garage bands, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. It's a great song. It has good chords. It rocks out. It's a good tune. I particularly like our recording of it better. I think ours is more gritty and more raunchy.
Well, let's hope you get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I'd like them to put the Monkeys in there too. I mean, how many bands would love to go in there? But let's see what happens. As I said,
Yeah.
you guys are going to live forever. And look, the legacy you've had, Phil, it's just like, to me, it's unbelievable. And here in Australia, I'm just saying, we never got the show where the action is. But because of YouTube and things like that, people are learning about the band, the hits every day, and new generations of fans will be watching this and they'll be very interested. Now, we're going to ask you about your brand new music. You're going to tell everyone about it, and we're going to play your fantastic song, right? Easy as you go. Monterey 67. I also want to tell you, I've got a UK radio show, and I played that song as the number one song to start off the show for you. And I'm just saying, I will continue playing the song because it's so great. Tell everyone about it.
Thank you, Plastic EP.
It was Indian summer. We went home to see the folks. We drove over the mountains to the California coast. We found our way in the light of day to the San Francisco Bay, staying there with family for many a fine day. It was easy as you go. Your mama and your daddy know. Cast your burdens aside, child. Easy here, easy there, easy as you go. It was June of '67 when he drove to Monterey. The festival of music gonna fill our next 3 days. We gathered our possessions and we packed up our guitars, driving in our caravan of psychedelic cars. It was easy as you go. Your mama and your daddy know. Cast your burdens aside, child. Easy here, easy there, easy as you go. We saw Hendrix, we saw Otis, saw the Birds and Tiny Tim. The mamas and the papas did their best to make us grin. The Who smashed their guitars on stage, atoning for the sins. But the crowd sure got their money's worth with Janis Joplin. It was easy as you go. Your mama and your daddy know. Cast your burdens aside, child. Easy here, easy there, easy as you go. The music fest was over, so we had to hit the road. The times that surely changed us all. The music healed our souls. Looking now at where I've been back when I was young. Monterey pop was such a groove, man, had so much damn fun. Life is full of heartache now, cause the people just don't care. But back there in '67, man, love was in the air. It was easy as you go. Your mama and your daddy know. Cast your burdens aside, child. Easy here, easy there, easy as you go. It was a summer of love. It was a summer of love. It was a summer of love. It was a summer of love.
That song holds a special place in my heart because I was at the Monterey Pop Festival with Drake and Smitty. We had just left the Raiders and we were forming Brotherhood. And Derek Taylor was one of the founding members of the Monterey Pop. He was one of the organizers. And you know that Derek Taylor was one of the managers with the Beatles with Brian Epstein, you know, and their publicist. He came to America to be a publicist for rock bands. And we were the first rock band to hire him to be our publicist. So he wrote articles in the magazines. He wrote liner notes. And we became very, very enamored by him and close to him because he had such a good sense of humor. He was such a great journalist and writer. But anyway, he's the one that was one of the main organizers of the Monterey Pop. And you got to remember, this is a seminal event. In 1967, you have the Monterey Pop Festival. And then 2 years later, you have Woodstock. Okay, they just took it to the next level. But Monterey Pop started it all. And as you recall, that's when Hendrix got on the stage and put lighter fluid on his guitar and set it on fire. And that's when the Who smashed their guitars, you know. And that's when Otis Redding did an extended version of Try a Little Tenderness. You got to try a little tenderness. You know, I mean, the crowd went nuts, you know. Buffalo Springfield was there for what it's worth. Something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. Great song. And you know, the Byrds were there. But in the song, the lyrics, I say in my lyrics, but the crowd sure got their money's worth with Janis Joplin because she tore the place up. And she was kind of a newbie. She wasn't well known at all. And when she hit the stage and did Take a Little Piece of My Heart and Cry, Cry, Baby, and the other one, you know, couple of those tunes where she's really gritty and raunchy with her voice, she just won the crowd over. And I say that in my song. It's all about the Monterey Pop Festival, a 3-day event, and all the performers, even Ravi Shankar was there playing as. So in my song, Easy As You Go, I mentioned a few of these performers. I even mentioned a guy named Tiny Tim. I don't know, do you know of Tiny Tim?
Of course. Tiptoe Through the Tulips.
Oh, wait. He was discovered at the Monterey Pop Festival in the entertainers tent behind the stage. He didn't perform at Monterey, but he was in the tent where all the players were, you know, would get drinks and coffee and sit and rest before they had to go on stage. And so there he is with a big crowd of people around him singing, Tiptoe Through the Tulips. You know, and then he would finish the song, and everybody would clap, and he'd go, "Oh, thank you." He would tap his mouth. It was very weird, you know, his long curly hair, and almost looked like he was wearing white makeup to make him look really pale. But from that point forward, he just blossomed and became a celebrity, you know. But he was there at Monterey Pop. Some people don't know that because he wasn't one of the performers. Only the entertainers would know it because he was back in the tent with us. So I wish Brotherhood could have played there. That would have been a great feather in our cap. But we had just formed. We had just left the Raiders 2 months earlier. And so we hadn't quite gotten the notoriety or the publicity yet about our new band, Brotherhood. And we didn't even have a record label yet, you know. Okay. Hey, anyway, folks, all my great fans out there, all the Fangsters, Fang fans, I love you. I appreciate your support all these decades. And thanks for listening to my music. I got a couple of new CDs out. One's called, and this is a title that Paul Revere liked, Fang Reveres the Raiders. See, he couldn't sue me by using that title. So I didn't infringe on copyright, okay? Fang Reveres the Raiders. And I re-recorded all the big Raider hits. I think you'll like that. And this one, I'm really proud of this. It's called Rocker, and that's me down there at the bottom by the sign. There actually is a town outside of Butte, Montana. Where the heck is that camera? There's a town outside of Butte, Montana called Rocker, and I told my wife Tina, I got to stop right here on the highway. I got to get my bass out and take a picture of me standing in front of that sign. So if you get this album, I don't think you'll be disappointed. It's a double CD. It's 39 songs, 22 originals. I'm very proud of this. This represents about 5 decades of my recording history. So it's called Rock. You can get it on my website, philfangvolk.com.
Thanks so much, Fang, for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me on Music Revolution. And above all, keep rocking.